Thank you, Carmen. Every year we have a memorial service here for those who have lost their lives to a substance abuse disorder. And each year we have tremendous speakers, some of the most strongest people you'll see, people who've lost loved ones to an opioid addiction or to an overdose. And today we're very honored and pleased to have Tanya Niederman to join us to tell her story about losing a child. And hopefully those of you out there listening will take to heart what she has to say and understand the pain that loved ones deal with when someone is lost to fentanyl or to an opioid disorder. Tanya?
Good morning. Thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you all today. Please forgive me, as this is more difficult than you can ever imagine, and this is the first time I'm speaking about it publicly. My name is Tanya Niederman, and I'm here today to share with you the life of someone who is very, very special to me. My son, Justin Julius Niederman, who we lovingly know as JJ. JJ was born on June 13, 2001. I remember that day vividly. He was such a good baby. He was the oldest of our 3 children. We have 2 younger daughters and our only boy. We moved to Belmar when JJ was 5, just in time for him to start kindergarten at Belmar Park. He was an active boy, loved doing anything that involved being outside. He played street hockey and ice hockey from the age of 5 to well into high school, and proudly donned the number 37 for most of those years. Most weekends were spent at the hockey rinks. Some were spent at local lakes and ponds fishing, another passion of his. He would spend hours on the banks trying to catch the biggest fish, then release it back into the water. It really was his happy place. He was the best big brother to his 2 sisters, Grace and Carter. I'd like to think that he was most proud of that title. There wasn't anything he wouldn't do for them, and took every opportunity he could to fire them up. I mean, that's what big brothers do. In elementary and middle school, he was always the smallest kid. I'd always hoped he would have a growth spurt, and he finally did, but not until almost his junior year in high school. He never allowed his size to hold him back from anything. He went to Triton High School, and while he didn't particularly love school, he did make the honor roll a few times during those years and developed strong friendships along the way. He graduated in 2019, and it was truly one of the proudest moments of my life. JJ loved everything about cars, sneakers, the beach, music, the color red, making us all laugh, his family, and being with his friends. He was always the life of the party. His laugh was contagious, and you couldn't help but laugh too when you heard it. He was a great friend to so many. The light in the room, a kind soul, a hard worker, and a smartass. He was a student at Rowan College of South Jersey, pursuing a degree in hotel restaurant management. He'd spent the last 2 summers working at the Windrift in Avalon. He was a great kid. If you knew him, really knew him, then you knew he was unapologetically himself. He did what made him happy. Others' opinions of the choices he made for himself didn't matter to him. He never backed down from anyone or anything. As parents, your goal is to raise good kids, ones that make the world a better place, no matter how small, to teach them life's biggest lessons and protect them from the ugly of the world. We always thought we were doing it wrong, and I know at times most parents think the same thing. He was growing up and starting to become an adult. It's scary, but you hope that you've done your best to instill in them the ability to go out in the world and do whatever they love and make an impact on others. People always told us what a good kid JJ was. Nothing makes a parent prouder than that. Our family loved him dearly, and his friends treasured their friendships. He was a huge part of a lot of people's lives. He was so loved. He really was one of a kind. He was a typical teenager, a working college kid, living life before the adulting began. He wasn't troubled, he wasn't sad, He wasn't wreaking havoc on the world. He was just being a kid. He was doing everything right. He had his whole life ahead of him, or so we thought. That all changed on February 12th, 2021. Something robbed JJ of his life, his future, and his dreams. Something robbed his father and I of our precious son and the hopes and dreams we had for him. Something robbed Grace and Carter of their amazing big brother. Something robbed our family of their cousin, nephew, and grandson. Something robbed his friends of a part of their childhood. Something robbed this world and every single person who knew him of his light. And that something was fentanyl. I know what you may be thinking. That could never happen to my child, to my family. Or that only happens to others' kids, not mine. Believe me, I was one of those. I thought that very same thing. I stand here today as proof that it most certainly can happen to you and your family. It happened to ours. When I received the phone call that instantly changed my life, I couldn't believe the words I was being told. Something's happened to JJ. He's gone. I remember saying, "What do you mean he's gone? Where did he go?" I will never forget the magnitude of the pain I felt when my worst nightmare was confirmed and I had to kiss my son's cheek for the last time. All I could think was, this can't be real. How did this happen? I remember there sitting in utter disbelief. What the hell just happened? His father and I had to console our daughters and explain that their brother was gone, and we had no explanation as to why. Trying to retrace his steps as to where he was and what he was doing. A million thoughts raced through your head. Maybe it was COVID. Maybe it was a rare heart condition that we knew nothing about. I never ever expected to be told the next day that fentanyl took his life. As the days passed, I quickly realized this was no accident. Though we're not 100% sure how it got into his body, we later discovered that JJ did in fact take cocaine that night. We had no idea that he had ever done it before. And while his toxicology report showed he had a very small amount of cocaine in his system, trace amounts even, he had enough fentanyl in his body to kill 30 grown adults. 30. Think about that for a moment. He didn't stand a chance. His body had zero tolerance for fentanyl, which means no amount of medical intervention would have brought him back. There was nothing that I or anyone else could have done to save his life. I'm well aware that my son chose to take cocaine that night, but he did not choose to die. He should not have died from taking cocaine. His death is the direct result of someone else's decision to cut a bag of cocaine with fentanyl to make a quick buck. My son didn't overdose. He was poisoned, and in my eyes, he was murdered. He didn't have to die. The fact is, kids aren't dying from taking cocaine. Kids are dying from cocaine and other recreational drugs that aren't known to kill, but are being laced with fentanyl or one of its analogs. Someone did this. Someone needs to be held accountable for their actions. When will these monsters be held responsible for the immense loss of life they've caused? Sadly, in JJ's case, there will be no accountability. His death now serves as an example to everyone who knew him just how deadly fentanyl is. He had no way of knowing what he took was laced with fentanyl. You can't see it, you can't taste it. It's an invisible killer. Fentanyl is in every damn thing. It doesn't discriminate, it doesn't care about your status, where you live, or what you drive. It only seeks to destroy your life and the lives of those you love and leave them with a gaping hole, never ever to be mended. It only takes one time, one split second for your entire life to be uprooted. I know that JJ would never have touched it if he knew what it really was. I'm certain that you've heard the expression, your life can change in an instant, and on February 12th that happened. If you're listening to this today, I ask you this question: is your life worth that risk? Our children are faced with difficult choices each day, peer pressure, and the urge to just try things. Please, let JJ's death serve as a reminder that it truly can happen to anyone at any time. I just wish my son didn't have to be the example. In the days that followed JJ's death, there are things that no parent should ever have to do, all of which are more painful and horrible than you can even imagine. You should never have to hear the words, "Your son is gone." You should never have to watch your daughter sob over their big brother being gone. You should never have to Google funeral homes and then choose one. You should never have to pick out a casket. You should never have to decide on an outfit for your son to wear in that casket. You should never have to pick funeral flowers for your son. You should never have to rifle through photos to make posters for the funeral and then cry when recalling all of those precious moments. You should never have to choose 100 photos to summarize the 19 short years of your son's life. You should never have to find a cemetery for your son to be laid to rest in. You should never have to find the perfect plot in said cemetery. You should never have to research cemetery monuments for your son, or pick what you think would be the perfect one for him, and only have one chance to get it right. I've had to come to terms with the fact that JJ isn't coming home. We've had to reflect back over the past very short 19 years that we were so blessed to have. All of the firsts that we were so lucky to witness, and sad at the ones will never come to be. He'll never walk through the door, send us a text, or give us one last hug. We won't get to hear him laugh, see him graduate from college, get his first real job, get married, buy a house, or have a family. We've now been forced to endure Easter, his 20th birthday, Thanksgiving, and his sister's first homecoming dance without him. The pain of losing JJ has been insurmountable. It simply cannot be described accurately in words. It's permanent. It can't be fixed. It can't be reversed. He doesn't get a redo. We can't say cut. This isn't a movie. It's been the most difficult thing that I and my family will ever experience. A part of me went with him that day, a part that can never be replaced. A part of our family is forever missing. In everything we do, there is always something missing. Each day is filled with triggers, and you never know when they're going to come. It could be a song on the radio or his favorite snack at the grocery store. We cling to the memories because that is all we have. As most families are preparing for the holidays, shopping for those last-minute gifts, and gathering with family, we are mourning the empty space in our lives and our homes that JJ once occupied. My heart has been shattered, and the last 10.5 months without him have been excruciatingly difficult. I would do absolutely anything for him to be here with us today. There's no greater pain in this world than losing your child. Nothing is the same without him. I will now have to miss my son for longer than I knew him. And that is unbelievably heartbreaking. If there's anything that I hope you take away today, it's the fact that no one is immune to the wrath of fentanyl. It's not just hard drug users that it's affecting. It's killing our children, our cousins, brothers, sisters, friends, students, and teammates who are being robbed of their lives without warning. I will continue to tell JJ's story in hopes that it stops someone else from making a fatal mistake. I know that JJ's spirit lives on through all of us who love him. We are so lucky to have had him in our lives. If one life can be saved, then his death was not in vain. I urge you to talk to your children, educate them on the dangers of fentanyl, and support legislation that will provide accountability and justice for our children. No one should ever have to experience the loss of their child. His father and I lost our son. His sisters lost their brother. His family lost their nephew, cousin, and grandson. And his friends lost their friend. He's now our angel. Please say a prayer for JJ, for our family, his friends, and all of those who have suffered the loss of someone they love to fentanyl. JJ, we love you so much.